in most counties, law enforcement and public servants to go out and check to see exactly what is going on here. I'm going to go ahead and let you go with that one, Gabe. Go ahead with new information coming in from the newsroom. Gabe?
Yeah, so this is above Moore, the emergency manager in Lafayette County.
Okay, go ahead and we'll go and pop Gabe's mic up if we could, please.
Oh, it's my fault. Yeah, this was Bo Moore over in Lafayette County. The EMA director over there reported County Road 415, more trees down, more power outages, but not much reported so far to him and his deputies aside from that. So that was back on County Road 415. I believe we looked at that earlier where there was a possible funnel, if I remember correctly.
That would be very close to about the time we had that funnel report near 418, 415. This is 415 right there that connects back up there to Mississippi Highway 278 on the southeast side of Oxford. You know, when you're driving out there, it's like, is it Oxford? Is it the county? It's the county, but clearly that's where some of that damage was there. So Gabe, give that to us one more time now that we have positioning.
Yeah, so more trees down are being reported, more power outages, but the fortunate thing is not much is being reported in regards to structure damage so far to him and his deputies. So of course, if there is any damage to report, go ahead and call them and let them know. But as of right now, we're not getting too many reports other than trees down and power outages, which is what we had this morning. We don't want that at all, but we also don't want structures to be damaged.
Absolutely. These storms back here do not have nearly the rotation. I'll give you a storm track on them at this time. These do not have nearly the rotation of what that thunderstorm that's moving between Lafayette now and entering Pontotoc County has. This is more likely to have some hail. This is not a tornado warning there. This is in the yellow, a severe thunderstorm warning for wind and hail potential. And there are some times there, as you can see, eventually Batesville about 11:36 and getting closer in particular to Water Valley by about 12:12. Doppler radar indicates hail and some gusty winds on that, but we're not talking about tornadoes on that there. Looks like National Weather Service is going to extend the warning, but they're going to go with the tag tornado possible on this rotation as it extends into Pontotoc County. We will see how that plays out. These storms have looked like one thing and then weakened and then strengthened and gone back and forth multiple times tonight. And about the time we think, maybe we're finally past it, we're not. So I would still say if I live out here south of Pontotoc in particular, in Algoma, Wtva, Good Food, that we need to be in a storm shelter as this storm comes through. Is it a storm shelter just because it's wind? Maybe. Is it a storm shelter because it tries to spin up a tornado? Maybe. And I would say in either case, I would have my family, if I were in your shoes, in a storm shelter out here in Randolph, Pennell, Algoma, Good Food, Wtva near Toccopola Road. I think Black Zion as well, potentially there. Now, Pontotoc City, what about you? I believe that the rotating part of this, which is just west-southwest of you now, is not going to wrap up and make it to Pontotoc City. So I would say Pontotoc City, I think we're okay. There's going to be some hail. Whatever this is producing hail-wise and wind-wise, you're going to get the worst of that to come right over top of you. But the rotation, which is right there along Antioch Road, very near the Lafayette and Pontotoc County line, that's going to be down here closer to Randolph, move closer to the South Pontotoc School area there, and eventually down here closer to Pennell as well. I know we, of course, have a lot of folks out there live in this area, so let's make sure that we are in our safest possible location if we can, just to, obviously, not to be repetitive, but to be safe. I'm going to pull up some of the pictures. I'm just kind of looking back here between what we're looking at. Here we are. Here's some shots from the Banner community. Appreciate, I'm going to get the name on this real quick before we go. M. Jordan. I appreciate them for sending in these shots here near the Banner community, looking back toward this very organized looking thunderstorm here. I mean, you can see the overall shape. They had a fairly long exposure on this to be able to get this shot here and probably multiple lightning strikes from multiple spots. That's why it kind of looks like a day. But this area there is where the rotation is. My area of greatest concern, I would say, is probably somewhere in there behind the trees. So I can't confirm that to be a tornado at this instant by either of those pictures, but certainly that is one to continue to watch, and hopefully those folks are in their tornado safe place. And reminding us what that is, once again, of course, a tornado safe place is a small windowless room, a place where we can seek shelter on the lowest floor of a sturdy structure, a place that could potentially try to produce, where we could possibly try to see protect ourselves from damage on that. What you got?
Another safe place. Selfie. We talked about the kids. How about the dogs?
Oh, we got dogs. Okay, you got very excited about that one, but you know, the thing is that, and one of the jokes when people always talk to me, they're like, my dog does a better job of sheltering than my husband does. I do get that comment a lot. Dogs can be trained. Husbands, being that I am one sometimes, we'll just say that. But you know, you want to be in that tornado safe place down here in Randolph. I would say Pinnell, down there, again, south of Pontotoc in particular. This is the angle that this is going. And with, you know, having had a report of a funnel cloud in the last half hour, I still have concerns with this, especially being that it's nighttime. Now, the rotation on this, I would say, has headed a little more east of south the last couple of frames on this. Still kind of, let's get an angle here, and I'm going to put a couple circles on the map here. Just want to make sure I got I'll put dots on the map. Just make sure I got my angle just right. So give me a second to do that. We're not going to do that? Oh, it's not wanting to do the dot. So let's see if we'll do the circles. Yeah, it'll do circles. Okay. Sorry. Give me just a moment to work back here. I want to make sure I have the right angle that we're tracking this at. That's what I thought. Yeah, so make sure that's right. See, that has gone a little bit more east now. So let's use that as our track then to make sure that we have this as precise as possible. As I hear, of course, the thunder starting to roll a little bit more over the TV station here, as of course this is getting closer to folks there in Lee County as well, farther ahead. So this is my angle. And you'll notice it does include some locations like the Pontotoc City Lake on there, and that's because if this were to pull farther north, because again, it has moved a little bit more north of east than it was before, where it was kind of heading more this direction. Now it's heading a little bit more this way. So center of the track right there, dead center of that track is going to be just north of Algoma, just south of BSA Camp Yakna, and moving toward Chewapa, Good Food, eventually Black Zion. And if this were continuing at that angle, which it potentially could, again, I'm going to have too many folks probably on the north side of this, but let's just say all the way eventually to Tupelo. If that were to get closer to the high school, it'd have to go almost directly east, which is unlikely, but not impossible. We'd be looking at about 12, 13 for you, more likely on a direction that would take it closer to Shannon and Nettleton eventually, and perhaps it'd take some effort to get down to Wren, but not an impossibility there. Let's clear this off. Let's reset things here for a moment. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. I'm not going to say very often I want you to ignore something, but I want you to ignore something. I want you to ignore this yellow here. I want you to treat that instead like it's red. And the reason I want to do that is because this thunderstorm has over and over again weakened a little bit and strengthened a little bit, and it has gone right the last couple of scans where it was pretty impressive inflow area there to not quite as impressive at this point here, yet all of our mid-level winds, that's what these circles are, our mid-level winds are very strong on this still, and so it would not take much for this to produce sporadic wind damage, at least down here Algoma, back here Campground Road, Chewapa, and back out there closer to Good Food, in particular the spots that I'm most concerned about that there. What you got, Gabe?
If you want more evidence of why to treat this like a tornado warning, take a look at this video submitted by Hunter looking at the rotation, and it's going to be tough to see because it's within the lightning that you'll have to see it, but it's going to be right there on the horizon. You can see the lowering at the, you're looking at it.
Right up there?
Yes. I mean, clear and defined lowering. I'm not going to say funnel because it's so far away, but it definitely looks more organized.
What was the location on this?
They didn't give a location. I'm going to email them back and see if they can send one, but it was sent about 2 minutes ago.
Right there. I'm going to see if I can get that exact frame. Give me a moment here. That sometimes is a challenge, but I think is a challenge worth accepting. Right. Whew. There's your shot. Well, can I zoom it in while also doing that? No, I can't do that. Okay, so I mean, you can definitely see the area of rotation that they caught there. Hopefully they got into their shelter. I'll see if we get another picture, but that was a good shot there. So appreciate those folks for sending that in. And I'll see if I can get the name on that again real quick. Hunter. That's Hunter there?
Yes.
Hunter on the rotation on this tornado-warned thunderstorm. So that is a wall cloud at least, and that is the reason why I don't often say, hey, ignore something. But ignore the yellow, and let's treat it like red in this case, being that it is, what, 11:30 at night almost. And we've had some funnel clouds on this. I know it's disruptive out here, Algoma, Wtva, Troy, back out here closer to eventually the Otis and Shannon. But we need to probably be in or at least very near our tornado safe place. As I widen things out, I have not spent much time on your storm down here closer to Aberdeen and Amory. I understand that. We don't have much in the way of rotation. As you can see, really not anything in the way of rotation out of this. I would say these thunderstorms are what we would call elevated, less likely to be fully stretched where they're bringing in surface unstable air and developing from a layer a little above the surface. At least at this moment, that is the case. Now, could this storm back here toward Parkersburg, when it gets out here closer to Wren, do something else? That's not impossible. It's a big uphill battle. We will see. This one in particular on the back end. We will see what happens if that can continue to mature. Gabe, don't let me go more than about 6 or 7 minutes without looking back toward that one there.
Okay.
That one definitely could get interesting again. So we'll come back and we'll look at that in a minute. Randolph, our area of rotation here exiting our tornado warning. Again, defining this as Doppler radar indicated rotation that could potentially develop into a tornado. How soon remains the question. As you saw a moment ago, we're still getting plenty of reports of lowerings on this, areas of where the bottom of the cloud's hanging lower. Why is that important? Well, that happens as air is coming in and rushing up into the thunderstorm. That process lowers the air pressure, and so it makes it to where, honestly, the moisture condenses a little bit lower, a little quicker, closer to the ground. And so we know that's a place where air is being ingested up into the thunderstorm as it reduces that level which the cloud forms. So we call that a wall cloud. And so as everything's kind of rushing up and into that wall cloud there, that is why it kind of hangs lower. So we call it a lowering. So we then look to see how low is that. Is there still a gap between it and the ground? And that picture, the video we saw a minute ago, still did look like there is still a gap between the ground and that lowering. But certainly it shows a sign that this is very organized. And we still have these hooks showing up on it. It's still rotating and trying to produce a tornado. And luckily to this point, while we have had some reports of certainly power outages and potentially some tree damage back in Lafayette County, we have not had any confirmed reports of tornadoes, despite the fact we have had at least one funnel cloud and multiple what we would call wall clouds out of this. So Doppler radar still shows rotation that at some point could potentially develop into a tornado. So if you're ahead of this, again, new times here. Let's get you a new track on this for Pennell. We'll be just kind of on the south side of this. We'll come in a little closer for you in a moment. But I show Palestine Church at 1132. This would be the Lafayette and Pontotoc County line. This is Calhoun County. This is Lafayette County. And our area of circulation is in Pontotoc County. This Pontotoc City is just right there nestled between our banner at the top and the one on the side with the tracks. That's where Pontotoc City is. The kind of the south side of town where you get the split there. I know we had some damage down here with some more significant tornadoes a couple years ago. This probably stays slightly south of that location. Now you see with that update on your screen as of 11:30, our tornado warning for Pontotoc and Lafayette counties has reached its expiration time. And so what we're going to do at this point here is we're going to keep it here for a couple minutes. The reason we're going to do that is on multiple occasions tonight we have seen warnings hit their expiration time and then be reissued. And so I want to just kind of ensure that we're not going to find ourselves in that situation here. I just don't want to find ourselves in that situation where we're kicking ourselves like, man, we should have stayed back on. So we're going to stick with this for a few more minutes if we can. And so I kind of referenced this a second ago. Current time is 11:30. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. Folks here in the newsroom continuing to kind of assess things from emergency managers and public officials that are continuing to try to figure out what has happened. What we do know has happened is we've had some wind damage at some form or fashion. Was it tornado damage? Not convinced. Was it at least some wind damage? Back out here just north of Delay, southeast of Oxford in Lafayette County near Mississippi Highway 334 and County Road 415 in Lafayette County. We did have some damage. Now that's been about 45 minutes ago. This thunderstorm here briefly produced a funnel cloud near Mississippi Highway 334 that we've shown you a couple of times. That circulation now near the Randolph area near Salmon Road, which if you're one of those folks like my family is that likes to go out and kind of visit the Amish from time to time out there, you might recognize that road because that's where a lot of those folks live. So hopefully they have been as alerted as they can be. I know a lot of neighbors typically come and let them know, hey, something's going. They take care of themselves as well. But certainly watching for those folks there, and our area of circulation here on the precipitation mode does continue to look fairly impressive. We're just north of Pennell by about 1.5 miles along Mississippi Highway 341, tracking toward Mississippi Highway 315. Time to Mississippi Highway 315 there continues at about, let's see here, we're looking at about still 30 to 25 miles per hour. We're 11 minutes and 5 miles from Mississippi Highway 15, an area of circulation that could once again at some point try to produce tornado. I will say that does look a little bit weaker once again. So that's a good sign, and hopefully a trend that continues on this. It does look just the littlest bit weaker. Gabe, I see that a new MCD came down from the Storm Prediction Center. Have you had a chance to check it out?
Yeah, I was reading over it, and basically it's the environment remains favorable for supercells to develop, but they're struggling with mid-level lapse rates. They're weak with warm temperatures aloft. We talked about the cap, and there it is right there. Most storms have struggled to maintain severe intensity. Some increase in storm coverage remains, but they're talking about the possibility of extending a severe weather threat over into Alabama, so western sections of Alabama, paying attention to that. But it's kind of just watch and see. But that potential for severe weather to take place is still there. Large hail, locally damaging wind, and they're still not ruling out the possibility of a tornado.
So what I'm checking here real quick while you're talking about that is another way to assess this, and is the lightning trend. We go back about an hour, and you might be able to see it in the corner of your screen there. Maybe you can't, depending on whether it's in how far to the edge your screen takes it. I show about 130 lightning strikes an hour ago on this thunderstorm. When it produced that funnel cloud and the wind damage there was close to the Delay area southeast of Oxford, we had about 204 lightning strikes, and these are over, I believe, a 5-minute period. And if you bring it to now, that thunderstorm maintaining about 269. So stronger than an hour ago, not as strong as a half hour ago. And I do not show quite as impressive a wind signature, but this is still showing what we call an inflow channel with it. We have the hook echo, the air trying to wrap back around here, and a well-defined inflow channel, this kind of pointed area here, this area kind of nothing coming in. That's where the warm air's wrapping back in there. And so right on 341 is where our area of circulation would be at this time, trying to spin something up. But let's see our trend here and kind of make a decision on what we do with coverage. Here for a moment. I'm going to give this one more radar scan. This is either going to A, get stronger, or B, get weaker. Based on what that decision is, we'll decide what we do next. We might end up sending folks back to regular programming if we can get a trend that heads that direction. If not, we might stick with this if we think it's going to be upgraded to a tornado warning once again. I'm going to look at this couple of spots. While we wait on that next scan out of the radar site in Monroe County, I'm going to look from farther away, from too far away in Memphis. The wind still does not show as strong as it was. You could see 10, 15 minutes ago, right at the county line. I think just with the eyeball test, the red is not as bright and the green is not as bright, so a weakening trend there. If we look from too far away down in Jackson, you can see where it is now. Again, we're way too far away, but clearly was a little stronger closer to the county line. And just a little bit weaker now, not as big of a drop off on that site there. And if we look from Monroe County, which is our closest site at this point, I'll also say that I'm just on the wind mode here. I don't see enough to keep with it. So here's what, if you don't object, Gabe, I think we send folks back to their regularly scheduled programming, and then we do additional coverage as necessary. Does that sound good with you?
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay, so listen, it's not the rotation has not dropped to zero on this. We're going to keep watching this thunderstorm, but it also has more rain that's being ingested in here, and that kind of zone where if it was going to do it out here in Lafayette County in the far western portion of Pontotoc County, it hasn't quite. Is there rotation? Yes. Are we watching it? Absolutely. We will continue streaming live on Facebook as well. Keep it here for the latest. We'll bring you more updates as necessary.
This has been a severe weather update from the WTVA Severe Weather Authority.